Hello, hello, hello. It's me again. Welcome to today's event for Green Tech Southwest. It's a really, really exciting one today. Well, they're all exciting, but we are partnering up with Bristol Tech Festival 2021, and this is our sort of contribution event to celebrate innovators in green tech in Bristol. So yeah, I've got a fabulous lineup for you this afternoon. In sort of spirit of Ada Lovelace Day earlier this week, we've actually got an all-female, I was about to say cast, not really, all-female lineup today, who will be delivering 3 fantastic lightning talks a little bit later. So yeah, really excited about this one. So yeah, this is, the people who've come here before, this is, the drill. This is usually where just get yourself settled in, make sure your sound's working, get comfortable, get a cup of tea, whichever, tuck into your lunch. I'll just sort of be going through some housekeeping for those who are new, or maybe a bit rusty. But yeah, we should be starting the event at about, 1:30, so about 6 minutes to go. So yeah, I mean, as I said, as those who've been here before, this is, we love our community at Green Tech Southwest. We love how involved you all get and how interactive our comment sections are. So feel free to introduce yourself in the comment section. We love to hear sort of where you're tuning in from, what do you do, what brings you here, have you been here before? And seeing as, it is sort of the Bristol Tech Festival, have you taken part in any other events today? We'd love to hear it all. So my name's Ellen. Well, like I said, we'll be getting started in about 5 minutes or so. But just a general few things to sort of look out for as the event goes on. So we'll be hearing 3 lightning talks. So usually we just have maybe the one speaker, but so we'll be hearing 3 different talks. So you'll have opportunity to ask each of these speakers questions after their talk. So if you do have a question for anyone, there's an ask a question section at the bottom, which is really useful, just helps it keep it all in one place. And also it means that if there's a question asked that a lot of people are really keen to know the answer to, you can upvote it as well and get that brought to the top to make sure the answers that you're really keen to know, the questions you're really keen to know the answers to are being answered. We also have a 60-second intro section, which is just where, we're a community-led organisation. We want to make sure that you guys can benefit from this as much as possible. So if you have anything that you're keen to shout out about, or if you have a project that you need some help with, or just something that's really cool you want people to sort of keep an eye on for, you have 60 seconds to sort of do a bit of a humble brag, as I like to call it. And yeah, just tell us about what you're doing. So we'll be doing that shortly. So if you do want to take part in that, just pop your name down in the comment section, and we'll invite you up on screen. Just in sort of the interest of time and everything, it is better if you're on Google Chrome. I know that we have a few issues of people getting invited up on screen or sound issues if you're not. So just something to bear in mind if you are keen to join us. We also we've got a survey going around at the moment. It's about 6 questions long. So yeah, because feedback is really, really important to us. So just want to say a massive thank you to those of you who've already filled it out. It's been a really enjoyable read to see what you guys have been getting out of it and what you've enjoyed of sort of Green Tech Southwest so far. If you haven't had a chance to fill it out yet, we'd be really grateful if you could just, it takes about 5 minutes, particularly sort of interested in hearing if you've sort of had anyone help on a project, or if you've made any sort of connections via Green Tech Southwest. Yeah, just really enjoy that sort of feedback. So we'll make sure we'll share a link. Oh, right on cue. Spooky. There's our link for the survey in the comment section now. So yes, if you've only just joined us and you're getting settled, hi, welcome. We'll be getting started in about 3 minutes or so. We're a bit dispersed this time at Green Tech Southwest. We've got Hannah joining us from quite an interesting location, but I'll leave her to sort of unveil that. But yeah, if you've got any sort of questions for the speakers at all, we, like I said, we try and filter them out through the comment section as much as possible, but there is an ask the question section just at the bottom of the sort of right hand side, depending on your screen or what device you're on, which will help us sort of definitely be able to make sure that your questions aren't missed. We've also got a number of different polls which will go up throughout the talk, just related to the topics. And yeah, it's always good to know sort of people's understanding of the topic before the meetup. So yeah, they'll be going up as well, and they'll flash up as a little red icon at the bottom of your screen as well. There's always a huge amount of resources, links, information. It's just amazing how much you guys contribute and chat away in the comments with useful resources. So following the event, what I'll do is I'll go through everything and make sure that all that information is in one place. As I mentioned in our sort of previous talks, Hannah has been working tirelessly to develop our amazing new shiny website, which we will share with you as well. But yeah, we're very proud of it, but it also means in terms of follow-up and everything is in one place. We've got speaker interviews in one place. We've got past events all on our website with sort of links and to the videos, to speaker slides, everything. So yeah, it's a lot more concise. But yeah, so I'll make sure that's all available for tonight's gosh, wishing the day away there, for today's talk as well, and also any previous events that you've either missed or want to revisit will all be there as well. There's the shiny new website. But yeah, no, I definitely would recommend checking it out. We've had some fantastic speakers over the past year and a half now. So yeah, you can all find them in one place. And here she is.
Hello.
Slightly different location than you used to.
Slightly different outside today. Great intro, Ellen. That was really good. You always do such a good job. You're very I'm always so in admiration of how just flowing you are with the intro chat. So good work.
As long as it flows.
Yeah. And I'm glad you think our new website's shiny. That's good.
Definitely.
Shall we kick off then? Mike, you are timekeeper extraordinaire, and we're here bang on time at 12:30. So Ellen, as discussed, would you please bring up today's slides?
Certainly.
And whilst you're doing that, I'll just explain to everyone what is going on back here. So for those of you that were at our last event a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that I was moving house, and I have indeed moved house, and I am now living in Exmoor in Somerset. But we don't have internet still. So I am outside using my neighbour's internet. And it seems to be working, so that's fantastic. And I have a hot cup of tea and a blanket on my knees, so hopefully I'm not going to get too cold sat here for the next couple of hours. So I don't know, can you hear any of the background noise? Probably not with the headphones, because there's an eagle overhead right now.
It's going to dive on you.
Oh, maybe. Oh, that's a shame. Anyway, massive welcome to everybody at Green Tech Southwest. Perfect, thanks, Ellen. Fantastic for you all to join us today. Comments feed's been quite quiet so far, so just to kind of remind you that the comments feed is very much there for everyone in the audience to have a way of communicating with each other, of getting to know each other. So, you know, Vinco, thank you so much for giving kudos to our events. We really appreciate that. Feel free to introduce yourself first. We've got some fantastic people on the line today. We can see who's here, so do say who you are, where you're from, and what's going on with you. So anyway, hopefully whilst you're all typing and doing that, we'll give you a little intro. So as I said, massive welcome to Green Tech Southwest. Thank you so much for joining us all today. Can you go back one, Ellen? Sorry, I just need to do the social medias.
Sorry.
and they're supported by us. So we are a community group based in the southwest of England, but we know that we have lots of you joining from all over the world. So wherever you are, you're very, very welcome. We are a community supported by two fantastic organisations, Future Economy Network, which is a Bristol-based organisation, and Climate Action Tech, which is a global community. We'll tell you more about those at the end of today's event. But we're very pleased to be supported by those organisations. And we're sponsored by the fantastic AdLib Recruitment based in Bristol, of which Mike is head of permanent tech. Did I get that right, Mike? Yes.
Southwest, spot on.
Yeah, fantastic. So I don't know if any ad lib people are here today, but for those of you that are, Nick especially, thank you so much for supporting us and helping us make these events happen. For those of you, if you're on social media, we do have a Twitter account, Green Tech Southwest. Hopefully you can see that up on your screen. And the fantastic Joe Mawson, one of AdLib Recruitment's people, is doing live tweeting for us today. We're also on LinkedIn as well, so you can follow us on Green Tech SW there. I don't believe it, but there is a car about to come up the lane, which never happens. So I'm really sorry. It may get noisy. Tell me if it does, and Ellen, you might have to take over. Okay, so next slide. Excellent. So thank you so much for being a part of our community today. I'm Hannah. You've met Ellen already, and we've got Mike Harley as well. We're your community organisers. We're not going to say much more about ourselves at this point because you're here to see our speakers. So, oh, I'm trying to do next slide, but Ellen.
Sorry, I heard it.
So we, as I mentioned before, we are a community and we aim to generate space and share insight. We aim to generate a space to share insight and generate discussion about how technology can heal or harm our environment. We support a local community with an open and inclusive ethos. So whatever you know about green tech, whatever you know about sustainability, and whether you're in the southwest of England or not, you're very, very welcome to join us and be a part of our community. And it looks like Mike is busy typing there to add in our code of conduct and our constitution. Because our events are online, the code of conduct is a bit less of a concern, I suppose, for us. But the only thing we ask of you is just be kind to people. Everybody has a different perspective. And especially for those of you that are typing in the comments, you know, text comments can be read in different ways. So just, you know, read everything with kindness and be nice to each other. That's all we ask of you. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I've gone big, but we probably need the slides. Yes, excellent. So Ellen mentioned our shiny new website. We have a fantastic set of speaker alumni now, and we've got a little screen image with some of our past speakers up there in front of you. We've covered a diverse range of topics, and we will continue to cover a diverse range of topics. And what we've been busy doing is collecting all of our past resources and putting them on our new website, greentechsouthwest.org. Okay, so next slide, please, Ellen. Fantastic. So yeah, you can find the website there. And next slide again, please, Ellen. You're amazing at this. Thank you so much. Okay, so Ellen mentioned in her beginner's spiel that we always have this slot, this community 60-second intro slot, which is an opportunity for you to very quickly share things like a green tech project or initiative that you're working on, or request for help or guidance, or some knowledge or resources that you'd like to share with others. So it's kind of the equivalent of standing up in the center of the room and saying, hey, this is me, this is what I do, and this is what I'd like to share today. Is there, now we can see that the comments are a little bit quieter than normal today, but is there anybody who would like to use our offer and take up a community 60-second intro slot? I'm not seeing much come up on the comments. Mike and Ellen, can you see anything?
Sorry.
No, not at the moment.
Okay, well that's fine. Let's move on then. So let's just crack on to the main event. Do you think that would be okay, Mike?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, fantastic. So Mike, I'm going to hand over to you and let you introduce our fantastic set of speakers.
Great stuff, thank you. I will just bring our first speaker on. Okay, so Jaya should have an invite.
Yay.
Hi Jaya.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm in my boy's studio, so I look really cool, but I don't play drums, just so you know, and I don't do bar chords. But if it goes really badly wrong with the talk, I might consider it.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you play requests or?
Absolutely, as long as it doesn't involve bar chords, I'm good. G, D, and E I can do. My favourite.
Great stuff. Well, thank you very much for coming along. It's really amazing for us to have you kind of talking through one of your many projects and one that I know you feel really passionate about. And it's probably one which I guess many people haven't maybe heard a lot of just yet, because it is quite new, isn't it?
It is. And also, it's about data infrastructure, which doesn't sound sexy, but it really is.
Great stuff. Well, yeah, I will hand over to you. And yeah, as we mentioned before, any questions for Jaya, then either fire them into the Ask a Question section or put it in the comments and we'll grab it from there. We're going to have all the three speakers and then we'll go to questions for everyone. And if we overrun at all, then Jaya, I'll come back to you and you know, we can answer those questions over email and we'll get those back out to everyone. So great stuff. So over to you.
Okay, I'm going to do this thing. Right. If I stick it to present. Can you see that?
Yep.
Does that look all right?
Yeah, looking good.
Fabulous. In which case, thank you for inviting me. I wear a number of hats, but the hat I'm wearing today, all of my hats stack really nicely. So, thank you. Thank you very much. All looking good. I'm the CEO of Semantica Limited, and we set up Semantica sort of alongside our digital agencies, very tiny but very impactful, so that we could do good with data, sort of put our geeky powers to good use, trying to ensure that we play our part saving the planet. And it has been quite an adventure. We created TISC Report, which is the Transparency in Supply Chains Report website, where big corporates report in their modern slavery statements, and we try and make sure that what they're saying is actually what they're doing, which is not a small feat. So I'm here to talk about Vana, which is all sorts of things. It's a Sanskrit term, which is one of my favorite words, because I'm a bit of a dendrophile. It covers forestry, or plentifulness and abundance and waters and things that flow. Life, the universe, everything revolves around this particular word. But also that is the reason why we decided to name our eco-transparency platform after this wonderful word. And we too are a B Corp. I know that there are a good few in the room. It is about corporate activism, because right now our governments at the moment are struggling, absolutely struggling to get a handle on the challenges that are being faced, and we absolutely have to step up. We as businesses, as leaders, as individuals, we need everyone to get involved. So like you've probably seen all of the rhetoric around how trees are amazing, they're going to save us. And of course, there was that one big quote that got me really excited at the beginning about forest restoration being not just one of our climate change solutions, but overwhelmingly the top one. Now, the detail, obviously, it's more complicated than that. It's not just about planting trees, it's about restoring all aspects of nature and trying to find our way back to the harmony we once had before all of our industrial efforts and our technologies came along. But to put it into context, if we're going to plant trees, we've got to have land to plant it on. And if you're looking at where to find it, everyone will be telling you that there's a huge shortage. And yet private landowners own a significant amount, 900 million hectares of land globally. And you know, if you wanted to put it into perspective, you could talk about the size of South America. But we're talking about patches of land, a patchwork quilt job that needs to be done, because it's not all in one place, not all of it is suitable. And as I said, there are devils in the detail. Okay, so just wanted to rewind a bit, because
I'm a physicist, or I was, and I ended up in digital and then data science. And now I've kind of found my way into, I suppose, corporate psychology. We were brought in to try and measure the compliance with Section 54 of the Modern Slavery Act, and we ended up working with the Home Office and many of the NGOs in the world, trying to get a handle on what corporates are reporting on how they're making sure that there's no exploitation or slavery in their supply chains. So this got us into a whole world of open data, which made me salivate, because it's the interconnectedness of this data that really gets me going. So we found that, you know, Companies House in the UK is absolutely fabulous in terms of the breadth of data that's available, even though it's not perfect, and a lot of it is badly scanned and needs a lot of help. You've got open corporates who are fabulous to work with as well. Wikidata, actually, in terms of UK government and the data that's shared, we have a rich landscape that we can start to pull from in order to get some handle on what's being reported by corporates transparently. And I'll talk more about transparency as we go. So when we built an infrastructure that tracks corporates and their relationships with different kinds of entities, like charities, like regulators, things that they fund, charities that they fund, directors that might have had dodgy dealings versus the ones that are doing other things, those sorts of relationships forged a network, a social network analysis tool. And we then were told that Land Registry, HM Land Registry, had released a corporate land ownership data. So bear in mind, we spent 6 years trying to work out how to get companies to do the right thing and observing them swallow other companies, comply, not comply, do tick box compliance, go beyond compliance. The percentage is very low on going way beyond best practice. And sadly, it's at the 8.6% region. But we started to get a feel for what influenced those behaviours. So when Land Registry data came along, we thought, okay, so we can't address private land ownership as an individual's owning land, because there's the whole GDPR privacy thing going on, and I guess that's a whole different part of the challenge. But what we could do was start to understand companies that owned land that might be useful in starting to repair our environment. So we broke it down into very small sets of steps. You identify the land holdings, you try and work out if it's suitable for tree cover, you try and build a business case for those businesses or for those organisations to start to do something good, and then connect them with people and other organisations that can make it happen, and funding, and then start growing things. That was the theory. So we looked at all of the different data that was available, which is a whole big range, including food standards, including some of those other compliance data sets you'd never have thought would be connected. But also, we, thanks to Friends of the Earth, one of our board members, Dr. Mary Stevens, enabled us to have access to the open data available on where suitable land would be that you could put trees on or in. And this was important because there is a government data set that is much better for this. It's called the low risk data set, but we couldn't get access to it. It's not open data, and that might happen in the future, but at the moment we had to operate on available open data. And it wasn't easy. You can imagine that you have several different data sets, a lot of them are conflicting. Land registry data, some of it, up until 1990, there was no imperative to keep people up to date on who owned what. So prior to this, there are really long-standing land holdings that you can't really verify without sort of tracing it back. And then you've got group structures, you've got double counting, you've got bad names. I don't know if you can see in the slide that there are so many different ways to say just City Council of Bristol or Bristol City Council, or the data in itself needs a big clean, but there's a reason why the team at HM Land Registry could not do that. So the only way that they can update a record is via the title holder themselves, and there's no imperative to make them do that for certain types of land records. So it hadn't been easy, and we were literally just trying to see the wood for the trees with it all. And you'll find that this particular project lends itself to many puns, which gives me great joy, especially when there's a lot of work to do, and you kind of need that humorous element, because it is a huge job. But even with all of that, we were able to start to get some idea of what the scale of the holdings were that we could be using. So we started to uncover by region. So if there's someone from the north here, you can see how much land is owned by corporates in the north, or organisations in the north, I should say, that would be suitable for land cover. The northeast, the northwest, and of course us down in the southwest. You can see how many are there. You could then start to see what percentage. Yeah, I know it is awesome data, Hannah, and it's got my geek on. It always does. So you can see what percentage of those bits of land that are owned are relevant to the problem of trying to increase tree cover. You can also break it down by types of corporates. Now, bear in mind that corporate doesn't just mean private sector. It's an organisation. And the organisation itself could be limited. It could be a corporate body that is a limited company. It could be an unlimited company. Now, don't even get me started on those. There's a whole level of lack of transparency around that that we probably need to look at. Local authorities that are there, and LLPs and those sorts of things. So there's a big breadth of types of organisation that we could be looking at. And our definition has to go with the HM Land Registry definition, which is organisations of that ilk. And then, of course, you can start to see what proportion own woodland opportunities according to the Friends of the Earth data that we were able to overlay. You'll be able to dig deeper into this. Don't worry, I will be sharing this stuff. But I suppose what I'm trying to get across is that data tells a story, and there is a narrative that we're uncovering that hopefully enables us to connect more with corporates and getting them to understand that there is a part that they play that is significant in leading the way out of climate crisis, or at the very least enabling us to heal as a planet. So now we can also, thanks to the folks at Companies House recording SIC codes, and those of you in the room who've had to play with SIC codes for other things, like marketing and segmentation, those sorts of things, you know that it's not a huge, it's fraught and it's not perfect, but it gives us an idea. So no surprises in terms of the top sector being agriculture, forestry and fishing, but you can start to see lower down how it breaks down by sector, including education all the way down there at the bottom. But yeah, it enables us to have a more targeted conversation with corporates based on what their needs are as sectors. So now you can also go through cutting by sector the woodland opportunities. Again, no surprises in the top 3. But here's the thing. So the reason why we were able to do this work, we managed to get some funding for our data infrastructure work by Southwest CTN, which is a creative technology network. And with doing that, they gave us 4 straight months of not having to deal with any commercial work so that we could try and answer some of the questions. The key question was whether or not organisations own enough land to make a difference to our targets here in England or in the UK. So the answer is, I don't know if you can make sense of my slide. I usually overload them, but the answer is yes, it absolutely does. The woodland target for England by 2042 is 180,000 hectares by then of tree coverage. And organisations own 235,605 hectares of potential woodland, but so you can see that that's more. And it's 131% of the land required to achieve that target. Now, this could be wrong. Don't forget that we have woodland opportunities, and there may be other things on that land or another reason why you can't plant that land. But even if we are 50% out, there's still enough. And even better, the amount of land that is owned by corporates that could make that difference constitutes only 5% of the total corporate land holding. So if we get this right, we don't need to make a dent on those businesses and their ways of operation. If we can do a bit of a, swap shop with land, where the valuable land for forestry can be swapped for something that they want, all of this stuff becomes available when we start to play with that data. So we know who they are. For those of us in the Southwest, you can now see that 26% of the land required to hit the 2042 target is in our patch. It does make me feel hopeful too, Ellen, it really does. Even though there's a lot to do, I also know that there's a huge amount of goodwill. So I will carry on down, because you can cut it by all sorts of things now that we've got the data. I'll come down to something that is a bit more. So coming back to our work on compliance with Modern Slavery Act, 24% of the land required is owned by companies that have to comply with Section 54 of the Modern Slavery Act. And this is important because they're supposed to be working on their supply chain transparency too. So there's an overlap, and it could enable them to do far more through their supply chains than simply trying to deal with human rights and making sure everyone gets paid fairly, which is a huge thing in itself, of course. So what we actually have come up with, we've done so much work, because it's all very well coming up with the data, and it's all very well saying we know exactly how companies interact with their compliance obligations. We now need to produce an interface that gets all of these things together. So we've been looking at not just landowners and how they interact, we've been looking at other asset holders, because the whole data set also covers buildings. So you could start to open it up to things like district heating networks, and trying to work out which buildings that are corporately owned are open to that, or solar panels. You can start to build campaigns around targeting all sorts of things now that we know who owns it. The devil in our detail is that we've got to come up with 20 grand a year to be able to afford that license. But I think if we make the business case, that money will come through either sponsorship or people coming in and becoming members of Vana as a platform for change, and also becoming more the data within Vana, because we connect to all other data sets to do with corporate behavior and compliance, is valuable on the ESG front. So remember that when you've got zero transparency, it's really hard to prevent greenwash. Then the data that we have available in open data and siloed data can help us to detect and mitigate for greenwash, which means that all the hoo-ha about ESG can start to actually become a quantitative thing that we can say, actually, yes, they're definitely doing those sorts of actions. This is how much they've actually had an effect on it. We can even see from the sky satellite data on what they're doing with their land. So we don't just have to take their word for it. We can start to see, to an extent, with limits on resolution, what emissions are coming from the land that they say they're planting trees on, if that's what they're doing. None of this happens without us having the available data, being able to see into supply chains, because those of you who are aware of scopes 1, 2, and 3 will understand that scope 3 is about what you do with your supply chains with this. Thank you, Vinka, that's great. There's a whole heap of grants and policies that need to come into play here, and some of the data that we can come up with corporates and with our funding partners will enable better policy to come out. It's very hard to come up with policy that's effective unless you're actually tracking how good it is and how effective it is. So part of what we're doing is not just in the, oh, let's build a whole bunch of forests and get our hands dirty and dig it all up and plant it all in. It is very much about gathering data so that we can improve policy quicker, faster than we have done before. there's even scope for getting schools involved, because as you know, that those of us who are in this space trying to make a difference, we wear so many hats. We wear the hat of employee or business leader. We are the children of parents who might need help as they get older. We and as parents, our children go to these schools. Schools have assets. If someone from your school comes back to you with your business hat on and says, we really want you to help us increase afforestation, do you think you could ask your company? That's a powerful ask. And so what we're trying to do is uncover those networks and enable that leverage to be aggregated so that we get the change that we need much more quickly. All of this can be mapped once you know where they all are. They're all entities. And TISC-Report, our underlying infrastructure, is all, I suppose, an internet of connected entities. It's not quite like the Internet of Things, but the entity part is really important. So below ground, it's a mycelium network of scientists, activists, social scientists, a good body of data. But of course, there's a whole bunch of scalable clean tech companies out there that could really make a difference if we patch them through to the businesses that are struggling to see what they should be doing. Add to that social enterprises that just by existing are making good impact, social impact companies who are profit with purpose as well. These types of entities are doing good on their own, but imagine what they can do if they're connected up to a network. The other thing to say is that it can sound very glib, but we're not meant to be one network to bind them all. I mean, that's clearly a recipe for disaster. But what we do intend to be is part of a wider network of networks. And so if you think of different places that we would connect to, well, let's do that, because this is one business idea that if someone beats us to saving the planet, I will be absolutely overjoyed. So, bring it, find people who are doing roughly what we're doing or something different or something related. Let's connect up and do that. As far as I'm concerned, it is about connecting up via data to those activities that we can help to scale. If you look at the global picture, we have a huge role to play and a big challenge. But if we can make it work in England and Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and then the whole of what was once the EU, I'm not bitter, the whole of Europe and then the world, we can do it if we can prove it here. This is the best place. In the UK, we have a hugely valuable open data infrastructure that makes the case for open data everywhere. With open data comes transparency. With transparency comes accountability. There is a huge battle now for the truth. And as a data scientist, for me, it's about transparency of actions of corporates. But it all starts from there. I've kind of rushed through this because it's there's a huge amount to do, and there are many facets to what you can do with data, as you can probably see. But we're labeling our human effort our land army. We've had a number of community organisations come to us and say, hey, how do we get involved? And still, it's a little bit early to have an interface, but that doesn't mean you can't help. If you have a few seconds, a month or a day or a week, then you can retweet what's going on to help raise awareness. Yeah, there's another type of land army that we need. Back in the day, it was about generating food, and it will be about that again, Ellen, but it's not just about that. This is about, the real control. It's not about taking back control. It is about giving back control to the planet. That's what the land army is about. Gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. But we will need everyone. Individuals who can tweet. You can if you've got a few hours a month that you think you can do something with, come and get in touch. If you've got tech skill or a funding skill, come and talk to us. There's a hell of a lot of things that we can do. And yeah, just come and talk to us if you think that you can get involved on a regular basis to get something done. There's an awful lot of momentum that can be built just with a little bit, and many hands make light work. I think I'll end there. This is, oh yeah, almost there. Just so you know who's involved with our team, we have a lovely team. Sadly, Chantal has just left us for another job because she was with a Kickstart scheme. But we also have Shanae, who's joined instead. We have a whole bunch of AI bots that go out and gather data from companies so that we can keep a track of what they're doing. And then, of course, our board. So Mary Stevens from Friends of the Earth, Nina Scabala, who is the head of climate at Business West, Trees for Cities, David, Louise Nichols, who used to be head of CSR at Marks and Spencer's and now lectures at Cambridge and all over the place, Heather Elgar, Woodland Trust, and Paul Nabel from Geovation. We owe them a lot because the barriers that we saw before have all dropped down when you've got people who know what they're talking about and believe in the mission. So we're very grateful to them. But there you go, that's us. If you've got any questions, do ask them. I do have to disappear bang on time. So if you've got other questions, just fling them through and I'll find time to answer them after, if not during the session. But thank you, that's me.
Brilliant, thanks very much, Jaya. That was absolutely fantastic and, you know, absolutely fascinating, incredible idea and so needed. Some of those stats were mind-blowing, you know, as well. So yeah, thank you so much, and great to see the questions coming in. Can we have either a round of applause or a sort of tree emoji in the comments? That'd be great. They're coming through. Great stuff. Thanks, Jaya. We'll invite you back for, you know, we'll try and get through as many questions as you can. Obviously, we know you've got plenty on today. So thank you very much again. And our next speaker we're going to bring on is Rachel Mills. So I'm just going to send her an invite now. But yeah, thanks, Jay, and we'll see you shortly.
Brilliant.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi there. Yeah, good, thank you.
Great stuff. Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us. And I know you've been to a few of our events before, so yeah, it's really great to have you on to talk about Buttercup, which is just brilliant. So I will hand over to yourself, and I'll be back after your talk.
Thank you. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see my slide. My name's Rachel Mills, and I run a eco-educational content company called Buttercup Learning. And the company was very much inspired by my own family. So I have a 6-year-old daughter who at the age of 3 decided that she wanted to learn to read. But she wasn't very satisfied with the books on offer. You know, books that told stories about other people's families. And she made it very clear that she wanted books that were about nature and the planet. And so from a very young age, she's been obviously brought up in a family that are interested in living sustainably. And it was very much the passions for nature and the planet and my own interests in educational technology that got me thinking about setting up a company that would meet the needs of very young children. And as a parent, I started to kind of think about my own child's future. I wanted to make sure that they were going to be provided with educational resources that would inspire them to maybe think about the effect that they have on a planet. So my background very much is in animation production. I worked at Aardman as a producer. I've been an animator, worked in 2D and CG productions for projects for CBeebies and CBBC. And then about 15 years ago, I went into full-time lecturing as an animation lecturer. And through my experiences in e-learning there and working with educational tech tools, those things started to connect. And that's how Buttercup Learning was formed. So in 2020, I was being supported by the Set Squared in Bristol through their Enterprising Women programme. And we had a pitch event where we were to obviously present our company to the audience that had been involved in that programme. And I put together a website for Buttercup Learning, but interestingly, it didn't actually match the environmental ethos of the rest of the company. So confession time. It was very much a case of that website. It had quite a dirty footprint, and I'd come to a talk with Green Tech, and I've also been to some other online sessions where Hannah was taking part, and we got into a conversation about the impact of digital footprints, as well as obviously the physical impact of things on the environment. And I'd spent a lot of time making sure that Buttercup Learning had solutions that were sustainable, environmentally friendly, but hadn't had the headspace to really think about the impact of our website. So I went back to the drawing board with it and started to look at how I could build something that actually matched the company's ethos. So you can see here the 3 products that we got at the moment that we're building. So we currently have nature posters with augmented reality. And how they work is you can download them or you can buy them as print-on-demand products. Use our free AR scanner to reveal further layers of educational content. So we have posters that look at plastic pollution, biodiversity, we look at habitat loss, and they also have scientific information attached to them so that they can be used either in the classroom, at home, to kind of spark conversations around it. They also have a button link that takes that child and their family to an e-learning portal. And on that portal, there is positive action steps that families can do together. And one of the important points that we wanted to get across was that we wanted to make it so that these actions were accessible by young children so that they could do them themselves or with their family and start those conversations so that that eco-anxiety could be lessened, but also give them an opportunity to have impact in their own communities. Our nature-based phonics scheme is probably, I would say, a UK first, and it's the project that I started on the back of the discussion with my daughter around literacy and engaging her with learning to read. So the Insects Alphabet book is it's a mixture of traditional book. You can touch and the textured letter forms. You can use the augmented reality app to investigate the sounds, the phonic sounds of the letters, discover facts about butterflies and bees. But there's also a section in there with conservation activities that rounds off the experience around nature. So we're trying to develop a whole series of products that give children and their families solutions to living a much more planet-friendly existence. So for the main part of this, I want to talk a little bit about the 4 kind of overlapping topics here. So I mentioned earlier about the fact that our previous website was was dirty and wasn't in matching with the ethos of the company. So I'm not a web developer, but I am somebody who has obviously worked in web design. I've built apps before, and I've done a little bit of web development. So I used the Green Tech Southwest community, I utilised a whole range of really great resources online to kind of take our website from something that was dirty to something that was cleaner than 71% of pages tested. So to get an idea of what I needed to do, I put the website through a website carbon calculator, and then looked at the data that was coming through from that to work out what was the problems with it. And as a non-web developer, it soon became very obvious from the reading that I did through Whole Grain Digital, Mighty Byte Sustainable Web Design Toolkit, and Climate Action Tech, that the biggest problem was that I had put a lot of images, a lot of unprocessed, unoptimized artwork and animation and videos onto my site, and it was doing really well. People were buying from it, but it was slow loading, and it wasn't very well coded as well. So I did a lot of research on WordPress themes, and eventually drilled it down to the last 3. And then taking that, I was then able to go back into the media, optimize it, and make some of those decisions about whether or not what we actually had on the site was beneficial, had an educational element to it, or whether it was just eye candy. And making sure then that everything was optimized appropriately. So it was a big learning curve. But what it taught me was that sometimes we can rush into things as a business without thinking about the impact. And I've become a bit, I guess, evangelical about this now. And that has come through into what I teach in my university job. And it's also embedded in how I work with various suppliers. And it's made sure then that we actually do have something that I can be really proud of. So the other things that we did were to think about how we could take this forward. So the next stage of our website is looking at how do we make a streaming service that would work for children and their families, that runs on renewable energy. Obviously, it has offsetting, but at the same time is going to offer a great educational experience that is engaging and eye-catching. So we've been looking at developing that next. So the other things that we do now within the business include really simple things like turning our router off at night. We also delete any unread newsletters. We're cleaning up our inboxes, and the small team that I work with are very good at following up on their kind of digital footprint, making sure that we don't have replicated images in folders. When we create stuff in Canva, we make sure that our folder management is appropriate as well. So we started to reduce the impact of both the physical and digital products. So print on demand was deliberate. We wanted something that meant that we could only print when people wanted to buy our products, our posters, rather than have something where we were wholesaling and boxing up huge amounts of unwanted, potentially, products. And we've done that by working with a company called Incredible. One of the things that I wanted to do with Buttercup was to think about how we can work with other suppliers, whether that is AR off-the-shelf apps, whether it's using WordPress, so that we can build the company in a way that is iterative and cost-effective. And it isn't about creating something that already exists. But we can then focus on actually creating content that children are going to need and want to engage with. So in our design studio, we recycle all our cardboard and paper, and we use refillable ink cartridges when we do test prints at home. And any of those test prints are then donated to local schools and community centres rather than sitting on a desk gathering dust. We went with Incredible because they have a really good ethical and sustainability policy. They only use Architect certified inks, which means that there are no chemicals that can harm the environment. And all of those products are packaged 100% plastic free. So we've made it a mission now that we don't work with brands or suppliers who don't comply with laws and regulations around working well with their employees. And we'll only work with people who have a very clear and active environmental policy. So our website is now obviously 100% powered with renewable energy, and our web hosting provider is Urgio, who plant 2 trees for us every month, making sure that that's done through a good scheme, the Eden Reforestation Project. But like many businesses, you know, offsetting is great, but it doesn't necessarily get to the nub of the problem. So we're looking at funding other projects through Stripe. So 1% of products goes to carbon removal, scaling technologies to combat climate change. But more importantly, we're interested in what we can do in terms of giving back to the planet rather than taking from it. So some of the principles around regenerative economies is embedded into our business model. And for us, we're part of what is called the Positive Impact Community, which works with other like-minded businesses to support them to give back and more than we take. So we're very keen to think about how can we restore natural ecosystems and empower people to thrive, and find solutions that will be good for people and planet. So we're trying to do business differently. Sustainability, in my view, is obviously necessary, but a regenerative economy recognizes Earth, I think, as much more of a conscious living being. And we see ourselves as caretakers at Buttercup. So we're striving to kind of build this regenerative business that really examines every product's life cycle and the environmental and ethical impacts that they might have on it. So to do that, we've tried to align with 5 principles, which are purpose, planet, people, partners, and places. What that means is that everything we do at the core of our business has a purpose. We're trying to find how we can work with nature rather than against it. And the people I work with, whether they're a Kickstarter, work experience student, or a university grad, or somebody with many years experience, I'm always looking at ways to try to make sure that we are supporting them in their training and empowering them to actually be involved in the decision-making in the business. So we're looking at ways that we can partner with other businesses and working with local communities. So one of our current projects is to work with a local school to create augmented reality posters on nature with the children. So we're teaching tech skills, we're looking at sustainability, we're looking at nature and teamwork, and helping to kind of build their confidence in those skills, but also embedding into the curriculum ecology and science. So we're a proud supporter of the Better Business Act, which is campaigning for UK law to change so company directors are responsible for their environmental impact. And for me, that I think is really important that that becomes part of law. Within the company, we have a very flexible culture, work culture, and that's already been recognised by some bodies in terms of the support we offer for hiring, training, coaching, and work-life balance. I've been working with some amazing Kickstart employees. Got a new junior web developer who's doing fantastic work. And obviously through my university, I've been working with amazing students and graduates who only ever get paid work experience, or they get offered something that will be valuable to them in terms of a longer term career. And then we're starting also to work with conservation trusts and partnerships. And the one that I'm really looking forward to working with once we've built our e-learning site is Wendell International, who are a non-governmental charity that provides education and training for children in Eastern Africa. And their interventions to support young people there include environmental education, education technology, and peace building training. And for us, that is a really good fit. So once our e-learning platform is built, we'll be offering to sponsor a teacher or a young woman through our Wendell International partnership. So the other project, because at Buttercup we like to be busy, is our digital craft-based carbon literacy project. So I'm working with UE animation students to create a carbon literacy course for them. And this is on the back of the work that I've done on Buttercup, where we will be encouraging them to think about their digital footprints, their craft footprint, in terms of how they create animation, augmented reality, CG modeling, and how that might impact on their future careers. So the university is supporting me with that project. We're going to be looking at the footprint in terms of the differences between a CG animator, a stop motion animator, and a 2D animator, and look at ways that we can reduce their impact when they're creating their creative projects. And it's really great that we can start to see companies like Blue Zoo, who have recently got B Corp status. So I'm hoping that by delivering that education, we can send out more creative graduates with an interest in this area. So what's the next steps then for Buttercup Learning? So we're hoping to expand and improve our offerings, and for that we would welcome your help. We are looking at how we track our emissions across all our business activities, and we've been doing that with Saphirix, a Bristol-based company, to enable a clearer picture of the carbon we emit. And I'm very interested in putting together carbon footprint labels to go onto our products, whether that's the books or the posters, inspired by the footwear brand Allbirds. And those labels will help to keep us accountable and our customers informed. So the next stage is for us to work with homeschoolers and teachers to build our e-learning platform that is built with sustainable design principles, that meets their needs and pain points. And after that, we hope to seek seed funding to take this further, so that we can create a outdoor learning package of materials that might include e-learning courses, printable worksheets, and letterbox books and posters. What's unique about this curriculum is that it is aligned to the UK Outdoor Learning National Curriculum, UN Sustainability Goals, and it's about making sure that this portal is accessible to schools as well as paying subscribed homeschoolers. And to do that, we're looking for people to test it, homeschoolers in particular to contact us about their needs and to work with them on the resources that are appropriate for their children. After this, we have obviously the opportunity to take the higher education carbon literacy and turn that into a platform for universities, but also for those companies that are maybe, some of the bigger polluters on the planet. So we're aiming to kind of create a B2B, a commercials branch of Buttercup Learning that would look at how we can support companies to hit net zero. I don't know about you guys, but I've been on lots of training as an employee, and some of that is very engaging and some of it isn't. And the idea being that we would use our augmented reality posters as talking points to guide people through the buttons that are activated through the AR app into a training portal. And this would obviously involve a very cost-effective approach to engaging lots of different employees with understanding sustainability and how the company they work for can reach net zero. So currently there's no real official training for employers and their staff, and we hope that our solution would be a simple, effective, fun and interactive way to signal to their employees and their customers that they're taking their part seriously. And that's really what Buttercup is all about. It's about building a platform and materials that will help to get people understanding what they can do in a positive way to make a difference to the planet. So, so we're hoping to create a tech for good platform, and we would welcome you to join us on that. Here's our fantastic micro team, and we also have the website link there if you'd like to take a closer look, and do reach out to myself at rachel@buttercuplearning.com. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Rachel. Incredible products, and great to see sort of how you thought about who you're working with and how you've worked on your own website and all of those positive things as well. Yeah, congratulations. So yeah, we can have some bees and some claps and anything sort of education related in the chat. That'd be great. Yeah, thank you so much for taking us through that. I've got a 2-year-old who is going to be very keen on using your products when she's a little bit older. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Brilliant.
Okay.
I will invite you back for questions shortly, but we're going to move on to Molly. So I'm just going to invite Molly now. Okay, Molly, you should have an invite.
Hi.
Great stuff. Hiya, how are you doing?
Yeah, great, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming along. And yeah, we've read quite a lot about Albotherm recently, so I won't spoil it. But yeah, it's great to hear more about the product. And yeah, just alongside the other 2 speakers, I think this is another incredible idea. So I will hand over to you, and I'll be back for questions in a minute. So yeah, over to you.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thanks so much for having me, and thank you to the other speakers. There have been some really interesting talks today. I've loved watching them. My name is Molly Allington. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Albotherm, and we are developing coatings that turn from transparent to white as they heat up, that can act as passive cooling in buildings and greenhouses to reduce energy use and carbon emissions associated with things like air conditioning. So I'll go into a bit more about our company a little bit later on, but for now I'd kind of like to jump right into the main part of the talk, why the cooling industry is such a big contributor to global warming. So cooling indoor spaces uses energy and typically requires quite a lot of energy because you're going against kind of basic rules of physics and trying to move heat back out to somewhere that's already hot rather than hot to cold, which is the way it likes to go. And at the moment, 10% of our global electricity consumption is dedicated just to air conditioning, which is huge considering how the majority of the year majority of the world has seasonal weather, and is so only really using air conditioning for half of the year. At the moment, the majority of our energy comes from burning fossil fuels, and as we know, this is only going to warm the planet more and then makes our indoor spaces even more uncomfortable and require even more cooling. So we get trapped into this catch-22 where we're making the problem worse and worse. And looking back to the 10% figure, if we applied that to the UK electricity consumption, for example, in 2019, that equates to 38,000 tonnes of CO2 emitted in the UK each year just from air conditioning. So it's a really big problem. And unfortunately, as our population grows, it's going to become a kind of more difficult thing to deal with. So at the moment, we are at 7.8-ish billion, And over the next 30 years, that's going to rise to 9.8 billion people on our planet. So that's a huge increase, up to 10 billion people within the next 30 years. And ideally, we really need to be decreasing the amount of resources and fossil fuels that we're using to prevent the global temperatures from kind of rising exponentially. And so with that rise in population, energy consumption is obviously predicted to rise. And just to kind of put into context, we're trying to keep the global temperature below 1.5, global increase in temperature below 1.5 degrees. If global average temperatures rose by 2 degrees, this would mean summers in London, for example, were hotter by an average of about 6 degrees. At the moment, our average temperatures are 22 in the summer, so that's putting it up to 28 degrees, which is really only a couple of degrees off the heat wave that we had this summer. So that's getting to be really quite uncomfortable all the time for people in the UK. So what about renewable energy? Obviously, renewable energy is a huge part of the solution. If we were able to power our air conditioners entirely with, say, clean solar energy, we wouldn't need to worry about the planet being warmed as a result. Now, in theory, renewable energy can solve this, but despite the fact we're seeing more and more investment into it, I'm going to show you some data in a second to explain why it's not quite the full answer. So this graph on the left is from the US Energy Information Administration, and this projects how much of our energy will come from renewables between now and 2050. So the capability of them is increasing hugely. So at the moment, it's about 31%, and they're predicting it should be about 49% by 2050, which is huge. But what I think is more concerning is that the amount of fossil fuels here that we're burning doesn't actually change that much, because the amount of energy overall we're using is going up so much. The amount of fossil fuels is staying quite consistent and in fact is increasing slightly. So I think the real problem here is just the sheer amount of energy that we need. And our only real solution to this is to overall decrease energy use and to improve energy efficiency. So taking the buildings market as a kind of example, how can we reduce our energy usage? So there are three main methods of passive cooling and kind of increasing efficiency. Ventilation is the first one. And actually, I'd just like to highlight another startup here, Top Rack Engineering, who have designed this really interesting smart facade system that communicates with the AC to either vent cold air from deep underground or to vent hot air from inside, depending on what you're trying to achieve inside of the building. And yeah, I think they're doing some really incredible work, and they've kind of built a pilot of this at the moment, and I'll link their website so you can take a look. Shading is also a really big option, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a moment. So this can just be simple blinds or curtains, or you can get some more advanced systems, say, that are temperature and light responsive, and this is kind of what we're doing at Albotherm. And so the last one is using thermal mass, which isn't so much something that you do, but it's more of a property of the building. So materials like concrete have a really high thermal mass, and what that means is that heat moves through them very slowly, which helps keep the buildings either cooler or hotter for longer. So in general, it is better to design buildings with these kind of thick concrete walls, which kind of has its own challenges, but does really help to kind of passively regulate the temperatures. So kind of going to shading, this is one of the reasons why it's so important. Windows are a really huge source of inefficiency in a building. So in winter, they let out lots of heat, and in summer, they gain lots of heat. 48% of a building's heat gain comes from the windows, and in offices, this means we get uncomfortable temperatures of kind of 22 days of the year, so 3 weeks of the year we're kind of above comfortable temperatures that people like to be in, and I'm sure we can all sympathise with that. People that have been in tall glass office blocks, and they do get very uncomfortably hot. And kind of coupled with this, with modern architectural trends, buildings nowadays have very high ratios of window to wall, kind of up to 75%. And also this is hugely decreasing the thermal mass of the building, which is one of the reasons why they're so inefficient. And at the moment in the UK, 85% of our current building stock is expected to remain standing by 2050. So really what we need to fix this and to improve the buildings that we already have are retrofittable solutions that can work to improve the efficiency of windows. So onto the solution that we're developing at Albotherm. We've made coatings that transition from transparent to white. You can see a picture of it here. And so they reflect solar radiation to reduce heat gain only in hot weather, and then go back to transparent to allow the building to warm up naturally in the winter. So we spent the last few years developing this technology. It was originally at the University of Bristol, and since then we've spun out to kind of develop and actually start to produce these products. And we can also tune the temperatures of the coating when the temperature it switches at between 18 and 45 degrees. So this helps us to create the right conditions for different applications and different climates as well. So as I think I've kind of mentioned before, there are similar technologies to this on the market. There are namely things like electrochromic coatings and liquid crystal coatings, which you may have seen before, windows that kind of change colour. Often, though, these require electricity access to be kind of put through the windows, which is a very difficult thing to do, and it makes them really difficult to retrofit. So they're great to be designed into new buildings, but the ones that we've already got standing, they're really expensive technology to kind of put in place. And this is reflected in the cost of them can be between £150 per metre squared up to about £800 per metre squared. And so I think the main benefit of our technology, how we see it, is that it's a spray coating. So it's sprayed on just like a paint and makes it really easy to apply to new and existing buildings. And although we're still developing it, so I can't tell you exactly how much it's going to cost, we are predicting it's going to be more in the tens of pounds rather than kind of in the hundreds of pounds. So as our technology kind of works in a very similar way to these, and we haven't been able to trial it on buildings ourselves yet, we are presuming that our environmental impact is going to be similar, with the added benefits of the cost and being able to retrofit. And so using our coatings, we're predicting we could reduce heat gain by about 58%, which would in turn reduce the energy consumption from air conditioning by 10%. So in the UK, this is equivalent to 38,000 tonnes of CO2 being emitted each year, which is equivalent to 15,000 hours of flight time in a Boeing 737. So it's a really huge impact potentially if kind of put across buildings in the UK. So how did we come up with the idea? As I've already mentioned, we're a spin out from the University of Bristol, and it was actually the research supervisor of myself and my co-founder, Dr. Sian Fussell, who came up with the idea originally. So Dr. Jeroen van Downevelt was our supervisor. He had a conservatory in his house that would so often overheat, and he was really frustrated with that. The blind systems you can get for them are really expensive because they have to be custom fitted to the exact size and shape of your conservatory. And so he was supervising the PhD research at the time of Sian, our CTO and co-founder. And he thought, why can't we just apply these materials directly? And so that's kind of what Sian got on working on. And that was when I got involved with the project as well. My job originally was to do a bit of market research, which was really fascinating to be doing at university. Kind of my first proper job working on a really interesting technology and spinning it out and turning it into a company. And so as I was doing this research from the idea of a conservatory originally, we kind of made the natural progression to greenhouses. And so here I'm mainly talking about kind of these large commercial greenhouses you see in the picture here. They grow a lot of our fruit and veg. And yeah, they're absolutely miles long, so much bigger than I think what you would normally expect from the kind of greenhouses you see in people's gardens. And so greenhouses are designed to extend the growing seasons by keeping crops warm in the spring and in the winter. But because of this, they are prone to overheating, and that is where we get the term the greenhouse effect. So plants that are in them, they're a little bit like people, and to kind of grow and thrive, they need just the right conditions. And in extreme conditions, the plants get stressed. So if they overheat, they get heat stress. they'll reserve their energy and they won't be able to grow as well, and we won't be able to get as much fresh fruit and veg kind of out of these greenhouses and onto supermarket shelves. At the moment, farmers use products called shade paints, which are just very cheap chalk-based white paints that are put onto the roof of a greenhouse. They're applied in spring and they're taken down in summer. So this is a big faff for them to do every year. And it also means that when you get a kind of cooler summer day, you're blocking the light unnecessarily, which obviously, again, stops the crops from being able to grow and stops us from being able to get as much out of them as possible, which is really important to, again, going back to the population is growing so much, and to feed them, we need to really improve the productivity of our agricultural land. And so our technology has a use here as well, as it transitions from clear to white. This shades the plants only when they're in danger of overheating and allows light through all the rest of the time, which boosts the yields and helps grow more plants. As well, for the actual farmers, they save time in applying and removing this shading each year, which lets them get on with kind of better, more important work. And as I've mentioned before, the coatings are tunable, so we can kind of optimize them to exactly the temperature that different crops will require to grow, to just, get as much out of them as possible. So thank you so much. That's kind of the end of my talk. Please do, I haven't put my links here, but when I send out the slides, I'll put in contact details and a link to my website. So please do feel free to get in touch there if you'd like to speak to me more about this.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Molly. That was absolutely brilliant. And so many positive comments as well, about, I think, how people want this in their offices or studios as well. So absolutely brilliant. Round of applause in the comments, please, and appropriate emojis. Maybe some plants and some sun and some greenhouses, maybe. That was fantastic. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Great. We've got some questions coming in. So I know that Jaya has to pop off to another meeting, so I think she's answered quite a lot of the questions which were put to her. So thank you for that, Jaya. And we will gather those responses and put them on a roundup and send them out to everyone towards the end of the afternoon. So I think what I will do from here is bring Rachel back on, and we'll go through some more of the questions. Just picking out the top two sort of voted questions for Jaya. I will kind of read these out. So hi again, Rachel.
Hi.
So for the top question for Jaya was, in terms of amount of land per organisation, did you find that it's many with a smaller amount or fewer organisations with lots of land? And Jaya's answer to that was, we managed to get the top 50 landowners in England and Wales, and there's definitely some large areas of land that are owned by big players, one of which is the Church Commission. So thank you for that, Jaya. Just astonishing kind of figures again about that land ownership. So thank you for talking us through that. So we'll go on to questions for you both, if that's okay. So first one for you, Rachel. Are there plans to approach schools with some of the digital products? I think that was happening, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we've already approached local schools, and they've tested out the demo book. So this has gone to a couple of schools in Somerset and had feedback and made some changes based on that feedback, but mostly positive. But we'll be continuing to kind of approach schools. One of the reasons we're focusing on homeschoolers is that the market for homeschoolers at the moment is growing in the UK. So there's now more than 68% of children are homeschooled in the UK, which is quite a large figure.
Wow.
And it's gone up over the last sort of 5 years, and it keeps going up. So hence the focus on that market. Lots of school teachers obviously have very small budgets and maybe not so much of an income to spend.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you for talking through that one. Apologies, I don't think you can see my picture. There's some sort of glitch with Crowdcast, as Hannah mentioned, but hopefully that's not too off-putting for you. So I'm just going to jump to one for you, Molly, if that's all right. So why are so many buildings so glass heavy? Is it just a trend, or is it cheaper? And would legislation on the ratio of glass to wall improve things?
I think legislation would definitely improve things because windows are hugely inefficient. I'm not too sure about, maybe it is because it's cheaper. I do think trends are a big part of it, especially in these kind of huge London offices. You get the Shard, the Gherkin, all of those are really kind of leading the way in the design. And I think that as well, the biggest thing that we do definitely need is legislation, because building contractors and people like that don't want to invest in sustainability measures unless they have to, very typically. So legislation is, I think, probably the most essential thing that we need to improve the sustainability of buildings going forward.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm sure you're right on that front. Great stuff. So another one for you, Rachel. What are your most popular selling resources at the moment?
That's the bee poster with augmented reality. Yeah, very, very popular. Interestingly popular with all audiences, not just children. So lots of sustainability businesses themselves, owners have bought it. You find it a lot in people's offices as well as people buying it for their grandkids.
Yeah, great. I'd be sure to check that one out, see if I can get one put into AdLib. So yeah, thank you for that. Great stuff. So another one for yourself, Molly. I think I did see another one here. Just bear with me. Yeah, what's been the reception from people? Can you see through the white? Is it transparent? That's asked by Vinco.
So it turns quite gradually. So it goes kind of between 0 and 50% shading. So when it's 50%, you could maybe see a bit of a shadow, but you can't see exactly through it. So I understand for buildings, this might be a bit of a problem for some people. I think our method around it would be applying it, say, just on the bottom half of a floor to ceiling window, and then maybe the top foot or something. So you still kind of get that view that you're looking for. I think it does need to be included quite creatively into buildings, and we'd also love to be able to apply it to the actual outside facade. So instead of it turning from transparent to white, it might go from kind of a darker colour to a lighter colour, which I think could be a really fun and interesting way to kind of help that way.
Great stuff. Thank you for that. Another one for you, Rachel. Do you see any challenges for scaling up and remaining sustainable?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the biggest challenge, I think, when you're a company that uses animation, multimedia on your website. So we're being really thoughtful about when we use animation and when we use still images. And then, really thinking about the interaction so that when we do create the educational assets, that there's a reason for them to have images. Because, we can put lots of stuff on a website and then just all the good work will be undone. At the moment, we're doing fine with that, but we'll have to keep looking at it and being really thoughtful about what we put out there. So quality rather than quantity.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, best of luck on that journey.
Yes.
Great stuff. I'm just scrolling through. I'm not sure there are any others at the moment. Oh, there's one more actually for you, Molly, from Ellen. It says, what is the expected lifespan for the coating? And how long do you predict they'll last before needing to be replaced or repaired? That's a good question.
At the moment, at least the first products that we're developing right now is for greenhouses, and we are aiming as a minimum for a 3-year product, because that's they're applying and removing it each year, so we're kind of making a really marked difference. But the durability is something that we're kind of really looking into in the long term. The materials themselves are quite durable, but it's a little bit hard to know right now before we've kind of been able to put it out there. So we are aiming for kind of 10, 20 years when we're looking at things like putting it onto buildings, because obviously you don't want to have to be removing and reapplying it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for that. Does it cost much to produce? And how much quantity can you make? Is that a sort of an issue for you?
So it's not too much to produce at the moment. It's a bit expensive for us at the moment just because of the scale that we're working on. So we're kind of doing it in the lab ourselves, and buying kind of small quantities of things is quite expensive. But once we're at the point where we're actually selling it for kind of large scale installations, the cost is going to go down hugely, and it should be pretty affordable compared to what is already out there at the moment.
Brilliant. Okay, yeah, thank you for that. I think that was all the questions at the moment. There might be some more coming through as we bring Hannah back to just talk about sort of future events and round everything off. So we'll see how we go with that. But I will just thank you both again for some fantastic talks, and just a reminder that all of this is recorded and you can watch it back really probably about 5 minutes after it ends. So if you missed anything, or if you want to gather some of the links and resources, we'll be wrapping everything up and sending that out later today. So thank you very much again. So I'm just going to bring Hannah back, who I'm sure will be keen to thank you both as well. Hopefully she's on her way here.
Brilliant. Can you see? See it?
Yep.
I've so enjoyed today's event. What a fantastic set of talks. When we set out to put today's lineup together, we wanted to have 3 completely different applications of green tech, and wow, have we had 3 completely different applications of green tech. I've learned so much, and fantastic presentations from all. Jaya's obviously gone, but Molly and Rachel, brilliant stuff. Thank you so much. It's been really, really inspiring listening to what you're doing and the different angles that you're coming from. We couldn't be more grateful for the time that you've given us today and the knowledge that you've shared. So thank you so much. It's been brilliant. And I say that on behalf of Mike, Ellen, and our audience as well. I know it's weird as a speaker. You can't see the audience, but I guarantee we're all sat behind our screens thinking you guys were amazing. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much
pleasure.
for inviting us on.
Absolute pleasure. Oh, thank you.
Great stuff.
Okay, so, yeah. Oh,
yeah, just going to bring Ellen back. So I'm conscious she's in charge of your slides. So we'll bring her back on. But yeah, thank you very much, Rachel and Molly again, and we'll let you go now. So yeah, best of luck with both products and businesses, and yeah, I'm sure everyone will be supporting you from here on in. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies.
Can you see the slides all right?
Not yet. No.
I'm going to try that again.
Oh, it's that tense tumbleweed moment, isn't it? Oh, is the tech going to work? Yes, tech does suck, Jinko. You're absolutely right.
There we go. Does that?
Yay! Well done, Ellen. That's fantastic. Brilliant. And sorry for the false alarm, Mike. It looks as though it must have just been me. I couldn't see you for some reason.
I couldn't see you either, so we're trying
not
to
Ellen, you
personally.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Good. Okay, cool. So my job is to just wrap up today's event. We aim to make these events as community focused as we possibly can, but of course when we're online it's a little bit harder. So one of the ways that we found to sort of foster the community and give a wider sense of what's going on in the green tech space is to signpost you to some interesting events, upcoming events and upcoming communities. So I'm just going to run through a few of those in the next few minutes. So Ellen, wonderful, thank you. Oh, an interesting white box. Right. So I mentioned at the beginning that we're supported by 2 organisations, and one of those is the Future Economy Network. They are a Bristol-based organisation and one of the largest green business networks in the UK. They have fantastic events, and there's huge listings on their website, thefutureeconomynetwork.co.uk. If you pop on there, you'll see member events. So we're one of the members. Our events will be listed in that section, and they also run their own events. And Mike, I know you've been to a couple of the hybrid events recently as well, haven't you, where they're in-line and in person as well?
Yeah, it works really well, and I'm sure we'll kind of end up going that way at some point soon.
Yes. We will, yes, absolutely. So for now, I just picked out a couple that caught my eye and that I thought were interesting. Sorry for the big white box. I think editing when you don't have brilliant Wi-Fi seems to have created some interesting effects, so never mind. So sustainable cities around the world. This was a very, very popular event that Future Economy Network did, or sorry, they've renamed to Future Leap Network. I keep forgetting that. Sustainable Cities Around the World was a popular event that they ran a few months ago, and they're running again. Bristol is often cited as a good example of a sustainable city. So that will be a really interesting one. And another one I picked out, which just caught my eye, I thought was interesting, was consumerism and behavior change. Especially for those of us in the richer countries, you know, our consumerist habits are linked to some of the causes of climate change as well. So I thought that would be a really, really interesting one. As I say, check out their website for a whole bunch of more stuff. Ellen, would you do the next slide, please? Thank you so much. And one of the other organisations that we're supported by is Climate Action Tech. I do a lot of work with Climate Action Tech. I've been one of their volunteers now for nearly 2 years. Climate Action Tech is a global community of nearly 5,000 people across the world. Very, very, very global community. The community really manifests itself as a Slack community, and it really is an awesome place if you have questions or want to discuss things in a safe, non-judgmental space. They also run their own events, and they're called Cat Salons. This slide pack will be circulated as well, and everything that's underlined is a link. So you'll find Climate Action Tech on Meetup. And I believe, if my memory serves, on the 25th of October, they've got a lady called Jocelyn Langdon, who is London-based. Oh, that's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? She is the founder of a network called Climate and Colour. No, oh my goodness. Sorry, mine's gone blank. It's a group about colour and racial issues and tech, and it's really, really good, and I'm a member, and I can't believe my mind has gone completely blank. That's quite embarrassing. Anyway, Jocelyn is going to be giving a talk. She's also a PhD student at Cambridge, so she's got a lot of great insight into how particularly AI and racial issues intersect. So it's really, really worth checking out. And one of the other things that Cat has is an online magazine called Branch Magazine. And some of you would have been with us a fortnight ago when we had managing editor Michelle Thorne come and tell us all about Branch Magazine, which was really, really interesting. And it is online, branch.climateaction.tech, if you want to check that out. So there's lots of interesting stuff going on with Climate Action Tech that I would highly recommend you look into if you don't know them already. Next slide, please, Ellen. Thank you. And just a sort of other set of interesting events that we've spotted around and about. Tech for Good Southwest is kicking back into gear after being quite quiet for some time, and they have a walk and talk event tomorrow. Mike, did you say you were heading to that tomorrow?
I'm not going to the walk. I'm going to the networking lunch at the engine shed.
Right, that's it. I thought you mentioned something Tech for Good tomorrow. Cool. So there's lots going on. Also, if you are an electronics fanatic, geek, whichever term you prefer, you might be interested in knowing about International Repair Day, which is happening tomorrow. You can check out their stuff. There are repair events going on across the world in celebration of Repair Day. So it's a fantastic initiative run by Open Repair. And last but not least, because today's theme was a little bit in celebration of Ada Lovelace, who is widely regarded as the world's first computer programmer. And there's an international celebration day for her, which happened on Tuesday, I think, the 12th. I also picked up this event celebrating 10 years of women in clean tech and sustainability. And to the best of my knowledge, this is an American-based organisation, but I believe that you can join if you are interested. And they are having a celebration event on November the 10th. So that would be interesting to check out. And if nothing else, good to know that there's a network called Women in Clean Tech and Sustainability, which was a bit of a surprise to me when I came across it earlier this week. Okay, Ellen, thank you. If we could have the next slide. Fantastic. So talking about great events, I'm personally incredibly excited about having Ulrika Hinz join us. She'll be joining us from Germany to talk all about hydrogen. Don't know if you noticed in the summer, hydrogen, there just seemed to be every other post on LinkedIn or Twitter was about hydrogen. And that's because the UK government released the hydrogen strategy. Hydrogen's a really complex topic that can and may not help us become more sustainable. And we have got Ulrika is just, she knows everything there is to know about this stuff. She really is everywhere when it comes to hydrogen. And we are so honoured that she's going to be joining us on November the 23rd to tell us all about it. So hope that you can join us for that one. And then our next event on the next slide, please, Ellen. Oh, it's clunky doing it this way. Thank you so much. And our last event of the year will be on Thursday, the 9th of December. And we are hosting our very first panel discussion, which we are really, really excited about. We've collected 4 individuals who are all involved in incredible organisations and doing amazing things to come and give us their take on how tech workers can take climate action in 2022. So we'll have Sandra Pallier from Climate Action Tech, Chris Adams from the Green Web Foundation, Mohan Gandhi from the Sustainable Digital Infrastructure Alliance. Sorry, I think our faces are just blocking the title there. And Janet Gunter from the Restart Project. And all 4 of them are wonderful individuals. They're very, very lovely and they know tons. So I think this is going to be a really great event. Okay, last couple of slides. So we'll move on to the next slide, please, Ellen. If you've enjoyed today's event or like what we're doing at Green Tech Southwest and would like a little way to show your appreciation, you can plant trees in our ecology forest, ecology.com/GTSW. You can plant a clump of trees for about £3 or £4, which is like the cost of a coffee or a half pint, depends on where you are in the country. Yeah, prices of pints keep going up, don't they? These events will be free, will always be free, and myself, Mike and Ellen remain committed to running them. But we've had feedback in the past that people would like a way to show their appreciation. So we set up our ecology forest as a way of doing that. Okay, last slide, please, Ellen. And yeah, we really hope you've enjoyed today's event. Your feedback means an awful lot to us. We really appreciate it when people give us feedback, especially when it's negative feedback or something that's not wholly positive, because it takes real guts to tell someone stuff like that. And we'd really, really like to hear it. We miss being in person with you all. That face-to-face feedback is much easier to give and far more powerful, we think. But if you're feeling brave, please fill in our short questionnaire. There's only 6 questions. I think, Mike, you've just popped that in the comments for us. We'd love to get your honest thoughts about what we're doing and ideas on how we could do this better. And you can always email us as well at greentechsw@gmail.com if you would like to start a conversation with any of us for any reason. Okay, I think that's us. I think we're on the last slide. Yes, we are. Fantastic. So it just leaves all 3 of us, myself, Mike and Ellen, just to say thank you for being a part of our community today. Thank you so much to Jaya, Rachel and Molly for 3 amazing talks. So different in the ways that they're using tech to approach climate change. I leave feeling incredibly buoyed and incredibly inspired by what those 3 incredible women are doing. So thank you to our speakers, and most importantly, thank you to our audience. Without you, our audience, there are no events and there is no Green Tech Southwest. So we don't take it for granted that you've given your time to spend with us today at Green Tech Southwest, and we're very grateful. So go well, and we hope to see you all again very, very soon. Thanks everyone. Bye from us.